week. It's season 2, episode 4 of the Hall of Fame show. Evan is here from Chicago. I'm here from Barbados. And yes, we actually planned sort of what we might talk about. We've got Evan. We're going to start off with a tribute to your brother.
Yeah, here in snowy Chicago. We've had snow, 4 days this week already. It's up over my front porch here. But the big news of the day, I guess, was my brother.
Let's talk about him.
So I don't talk about it much. But my brother actually is Jack Nolan. He is. Well, I have 3 brothers actually, and 1 sister. But my oldest brother is just about 20. He's just short of 20 years older than me. Is Jack Nolan, who announced his retirement today. Jack Nolan is best known for being the voice of Notre Dame basketball for the past 39 years. So he's been there from Notre Dame, going from, they were a pretty good school back in the 70s. They would continue to lose to Bill Walton and John Wooden UCLA team in the tournament. Went through a little bit of a lull, and then he was there for the Big East. He was there for the move to the ACC. And he has a championship ring from when Notre Dame split the national title back in 1990 in football. But he's decided to hang up at the end of the basketball season after 39 years, which is a long time doing anything. Mm-hmm. I mean, he met his wife through his job.
Oh, cool.
We'll put it this way. So my brother graduated from the University of Missouri, degree in sports journalism. He actually, this is how long ago he started. When we had a flight organization, Ted Turner wanted to compete with them with CNN, and he actually had CNN with a sports desk. I don't know if you remember this, back in 1981, 82. And my brother was one of the original reporters they had on CNN Sports.
I do, yeah. They had like I forget what it was. I think it was like an hour. I remember watching that, not a lot, but yeah, that was sort of like the days before. Well, I didn't have ESPN in Canada, but we did have CNN. So I do remember. I'm trying to remember. There was this guy with a curly mullet that I can't remember his name on the anchor desk. But anyways, go on.
Yeah. So he was originally one of their anchors and reporters and everything, and then that looked folded. So he ended up taking a job with WNDU, which is the CBS affiliate, I believe, or maybe it's the NBC affiliate. Whatever it is, I screwed it up. I think what is Notre Dame on nationally? It's NBC, right?
Yeah. Well, football NBC anyway. Contract?
For football, yeah. So then it was the NBC station in South Bend. And he took it because he had the opportunity to do play-by-play. So that was 1982, yeah. So 82, the fall of 82, 83, he took over as the play-by-play guy. So he would have been, he's born in 59, so he would have been 24.
Oh, wow.
At that point.
So he's quite a bit older than you.
Yeah. Yeah, it's 20 years.
Oh, wow.
So he'll be 62 in April. But he took over there, and he met one of the weather lady from the CBS affiliate, Rhonda Brown, and the two of them got married. And they got, one point had on WNDU, they had their own like Saturday morning, Sunday morning talk show, like a news whatever show. Where they're together. People enjoyed the fact that my sister-in-law would get on my brother for not, doing enough chores around the house. There's apparently a running gag. So in 2006, though, he had the opportunity to move over to work for Notre Dame and got put in charge of sports media over at Notre Dame while still doing the play-by-play. But that also meant that he was in charge of, the coverage of the other events. So at times he was doing like field hockey and lacrosse and other sporting events as well as handling the production or overseeing the production of all the stuff for Notre Dame media. And he was inducted into the Notre Dame Monogram Club, which is essentially Notre Dame's Hall of Fame. Since we're a Hall of Fame show, I can tie it in there, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
He did not know he was going to be inducted. It was a surprise, special honor given to him back in 2013. One of the few times I talk a lot. My brother is. It's funny. Like I said, 5 siblings. My brother Jack, my sister, and I are like 1, 2, 3 and talking, and then there's like a desert. And then there's my brother Brian, and then there's another desert, and then there's my brother Scott in terms of talking. But he got up there. He was like, I'm a man known for saying things, but I can't say anything right now. And then he came up with the biggest word he could in my brother fashion. He said that he was flabbergasted. Like, I can't come up with a word, so you have to come up with a 17-letter one. But yeah, he's just. I mean, he's been doing it a long time. Mm-hmm. And his wife is 5 years older than he is. So she's my sister-in-law is entering her late 60s, I guess, into the 60s. I just want to, enjoy themselves. You know what I mean?
Of course. Why not?
Yeah. And so it's just constantly, for months at a time, you're constantly traveling. And just want some normalcy for a while, and I can't blame him for it. But the tributes are very nice that I saw today. Not WNDU, Notre Dame themselves had a awesome press release about it. Tom Rinaldi, you know Tom Rinaldi from ESPN?
I do, yeah.
Yeah, so Tom Rinaldi actually was, I guess my brother was his mentor when he was starting out in sports journalism. He was actually a junior sports guy at WNDU while my brother was the main guy there. And Tom Rinaldi did a really, really nice piece on him. If you go on YouTube and just type in Jack Nolan, Tom Rinaldi, it's 2.5 minutes of my brother's career, just called "Thank You, Jack." So,
that's awesome. I never thought about this,
but really.
But I guess just thinking about the name Jack Nolan. If that doesn't sound like somebody who should be broadcasting Notre Dame, I don't know what does.
Yeah, he's Jack Nolan Jr. Yeah, my dad was also Jack Nolan, but
nice.
Yeah, I mean, my brother too. There were times he considered leaving Notre Dame. Actually, when Johnny Most died, my brother was one of the 3 finalists for the Celtics job.
Oh wow!
So, yeah, they ended up giving it to Glenn Ordway. But my brother was one of the 3 finalists back when taking over for Most. So, I mean, I'm very biased. I think he's exceptional at play-by-play. He's won multiple Emmys for his broadcast or for his play-by-play. He actually won the Midwestern Emmy. He hasn't let himself be up for them often, but he won a Midwestern Emmy back in 2015 as the top play-by-play guy in the Midwestern United States. So think of all the sports teams, professional, college, whatever. One time he basically allowed Notre Dame to put himself up for it. He ended up winning.
Well, let me ask you this then, Evan. So when you say allowed himself to be put up, he didn't. If I understand the Emmys right, and I very well may not, you can decline, or you can just say, yeah, I don't want to be nominated. Correct?
From what I understand, yes. That, as far as I know, is the only time he's up for that. I know he's won them. And Jack, if you're listening and I've screwed this up, I apologize. I'm trying to do this from memory, but I know he's only won Emmys for production for things that they've come up with. Mm-hmm. But I believe the only time he was up for play-by-play that he did. So, and anyone here in Chicago, because I hear him. Actually, weirdly, I'm going to miss. The worst part for me is now that I moved to Chicago 4 years ago, like on a random Saturday in the fall or in I guess winter, out doing errands, I just turn on ESPN 1000 and Notre Dame's playing somebody. It's like I'm hanging out with my brother. You know what I mean? And even Notre Dame football, all the commercials are my brother for, nice. Hey, Notre Dame fans, come do whatever. So, it's been a heck of a ride. I'm really, really happy for him. He deserves the break, and there are a lot of people who are like. If I went on Twitter, there wasn't a single person today who was like, "Oh, this, good riddance, bad rubbish." Yeah. Everybody there was just like, this, the voice of my fandom,
yeah,
and all these other things, and his call.
Well, I was just going to say the fact that everything's so positive on Twitter, and that's just such a cesspool of not exactly niceties, if that's a word.
It's hard to be a cesspool of nicety, I feel.
Oh, yeah, exactly. No, but no, that's awesome.
Yeah, his call, though, and he gets real excited during games, but his big call. Anyone here who's a Notre Dame fan will know him saying, "Got it!" takes a big three pointer. There's a lot of that when Pat Connaughton was around. There's a lot of got it. But yeah, he deserves it. So he's a really, really good guy. He was 20 years older. It took us a little while. Like, I was a baby when he was in college, right? By the time I was like anything more than just a lump that had to be carried around, he was already embarking on his career. So I didn't really, I saw him and it was great to see him, but he was in Indiana and I was in Boston. And it wasn't really until we got to be a little bit older where we really connected. It was actually, believe it or not, the real best night I think we ever had. I was living in Washington, D.C., and he was in town. Notre Dame was playing Georgetown in a basketball game. And we went out. We ended up at the Cafe Mozart, which if you're ever in D.C., I know we don't do promotions on this podcast, but if you're ever in D.C., there isn't quite a bar anywhere, I think, like Cafe Mozart, if you can find it. It's a little hole in the wall on that street. And you walk in and it's like a German deli. And then there's like a door in the back. And then you walk through the door and it's just like fancy dining. The next room is like this like German style brew pub where you can drink massive like dark beers out of boots, like huge boots. And then you walk through there and it's like this fancy dining room with chandeliers and like a grand piano, and it's just this kind of weird, like, how does this place exist in the middle of like random stores on a block somewhere? But he and I hung out and my wife, who my girlfriend at the time, hung out there at Cafe Mozart and just had like an incredible time and stuff. Yeah, we've been a lot closer the last, 15 years probably than we were at any other point. So he emceed my wedding. Or at least the announcement of our wedding. We had everyone come down the stairs because we kind of rented out an inn in New Hampshire. And he announced everyone down the stairs. It was really cool. And, I'm just really happy for him. So that's all.
No, I think let's dedicate the show to him. We got to do more of that.
Yeah. Sure, yeah. We should dedicate more shows to people.
Yes.
Agreed.
Yeah, especially when they're still alive.
Yes. Yeah. Well, hopefully he's in good health, so hopefully that it's a long time before anything like that happens.
Absolutely. So I think maybe we can segue from one retirement to another one. Might be a little near and dear to your heart. I don't know. I assume so as a Red Sox fan. Probably not someone who's going to see the Baseball Hall of Fame, but will definitely be on the ballot. Dustin Pedroia.
Yeah. So we had a big debate. So first of all, the Laser Show is one of my favorite, like, just guys who made it because he was more pissed off than anybody else. There's a lot of Tom Brady and Dustin Pedroia, except that Tom Brady's, 6'1", and Dustin Pedroia is allegedly 5'7". I don't think he's really that tall. But he had a better career than people probably realize. He won Rookie of the Year. He won MVP. He was one of the top defensive second basemen. He has 4 Gold Gloves. He has Silver Slugger. He finished top 10 in MVP voting 3 times, won once. He was only a 4-time All-Star. But he was a member of the 2007 2013, 2018 Red Sox championship teams, an important part of two of them. And honestly, he would probably have a better argument if he hadn't had his career essentially ended by a dirty play by then Oriole, now Padre, and his name just completely went out of my head. Where I can't think of his name.
Oh God.
Third base, Manny Machado.
Yeah.
Manny Machado intentionally took him out in a 2-0 game in April in 2017. It just wrecked his career. He never really played again. He played 9 games, essentially. He played 105 in 2017. But he played 9 games
in
2018 and 19 combined and didn't play last year at all.
Which basically means he's Hall of Fame eligible for 2025.
Right. Yeah, but he had 1,805 hits. Mm-hmm. He led the league in runs 2 years. He led the league in hits, doubles once. He's according to Jaws, the 20th best second baseman of all time.
Pretty good.
He honestly compares pretty favorably to Jeff Kent, with a whole lot fewer plate appearances than Kent had. So it's according to Hall of Fame Monitor, he's a 94, with the likely Hall of Famer being 100. So he's not that far off. And honestly, if he'd had his last 2 years to get up to say he had 150 hits each of those years, that's not crazy for him, what he was doing. If he had 150 hits each of those years in normal years, 300 hits gets him at 2,100, and now we're probably having a little bit of a different situation. But he's ahead of Kent in Jaws. So, and Kent is someone who's been on the ballot for quite a bit, and he has a whole plate appearances in Kent. The people right around him, just by the way, are coming right down from him, Alomar and Biggio, both Hall of Famers, Willie Randolph, who's probably criminally overlooked, mm-hmm. Joe Gordon, Hall of Famer, and Ian Kinsler, who he beat out at second base at Arizona State in college.
Okay.
Who actually replaced Pedroia pretty much in roster for the Red Sox 2018 World Series. Billy Herman, Hall of Famer, Pedroia, then Kent, followed by Bobby Dorr and Nellie Fox, both Hall of Famers.
Yeah, he's
right in that zone. He just may not feel like it. And I know a lot of people, when we talked about this, said they thought Nomar deserved it more than Pedroia did, but I think Pedroia has a better chance of making the Hall at some point.
Interesting. See, I think Nomar might get I think the opposite, only because Nomar's era of dominance was that. I mean, at one point he was, without question, the best at his position. Having said that, Pedroia, it'll be an interesting case. Would you vote him over Kent?
Defensively, it's not close.
Mm-hmm.
Pedroia is a much, much better defensive player.
Mm-hmm.
Power-wise, that is Kent the whole way.
Yeah.
Kent was a power hitter. Pedroia is a doubles hitter, a contact hitter.
Yeah.
But let me see here. So I want to get the actual numbers so I can see them.
So while you're doing that, I'll just throw in a pair of cents here. This is, and again, it's, if I have my Hall of Fame ballot, which won't happen because I'll never join the baseball writers. I don't think they're looking for anyone in Barbados anyway, so I don't know which chapter I would report to. So I think that rules me out. But nevertheless, I don't know that I'd vote for either of them. If I was a GM, for me, it's Pedroia over Kent, and it's not even close.
Yeah, so I was looking. So Pedroia has 600 fewer hits than Kent, but he's got almost 2,000 fewer plate appearances.
Mm-hmm.
But I do have to say, this did bring one thing up, actually, that was interesting on our board set. I call it our board as opposed to whatever I call it on the Twitter feed, whatever. Let's call it our board. It sounds cooler.
It does, doesn't it?
But on on our boards, I can't remember who brought it up, but they said that it's weird that in baseball, consistent longevity is way more prized than a short period of greatness. Whereas in football, it seems in many ways to be the opposite.
Well, I think though a big part of that is if you've got that big burst of greatness in football, you can really change that a lot more than you can in baseball. I think it was Bill Simmons who said that baseball is really an individual sport masked in a team, something to that effect.
Yeah, right.
And I think that might have a little bit to that. And I sort of liken that to Terrell Davis.
Right. Well, Terrell Davis, I mean, you can call Calvin Johnson, who's up this year, what's his name? Gale Sayers, all sorts of people who have shorter careers. And then there is a Sandy Koufax, although Koufax pitched longer than history gives him credit for. But they're the vast majority. You're more likely to get in as you're more likely to get in the Hall of Fame as I'm trying to think of
a compiler,
someone who's just. Yeah, I'm trying to think of someone who is an example of like someone who's really good but not necessarily great and made it to the Hall of Fame. Craig Biggio.
That's a good one.
How's that?
Burt Blyleven.
So Burt Blyleven. There's another good one. Like you're much more likely to get in as one of those type of players because Craig Biggio. This is a sentence I never thought I was going to say. His Craig Biggio, the Clay Matthews of baseball.
I don't even know where to go with that sentence. It's just such a weird sentence.
It just popped in my head.
Yeah.
It's a weird sentence because I actually think Biggio was a better player than Clay Matthews Sr. was.
Yeah.
But it's the same thing. Clay Matthews Sr. is the ultimate compiler, right? Frank Gore is a compiler. But Frank Gore compiled so much that he hit third. There's no way you can deny it eventually. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So it's just an interesting dynamic between the two because, put it this way, if Nomar Garcia played football, he'd probably be in the Hall of Fame.
That's true. That's true. And it's like...
It's just weird. I hadn't thought of it until someone mentioned it.
And it's like we were talking about just last week, something that Vinny brought up in our board. Who was it? Who the hell did he say? Oh, if Terrell Owens was playing baseball, he'd still be on the ballot because they'd all be worried about his character.
Yeah, agreed.
And like that, to me, it's like, holy shit, he's right. He's 1,000% right. All these, they worry about totally different things.
He's very wise for a 21-year-old that Vinny lost in his show.
Yeah, I've heard that. And if you haven't heard that, he'll tell you. But yeah, so Pedroia, Pedroia is a really good player. So again, somebody who, if I'm a GM, I'd be thrilled if I picked him up. I think it was a second-round pick or something like that. So, so cheers to you. Hats off to you. Best of luck in your post-playing career.
Yeah, and I wonder if his number will actually be retired by the Red Sox. Because the Red Sox used to have the rule you had to make the Hall of Fame and play for the team for like 9 years. You know, he got his number retired. And they changed it. But it's possible that it could happen. So, we'll see.
Possible. We'll see.
But anyway.
A lot of it depends on how he sort of fits into that whole fabric. Is he good enough to be a broadcaster, you think? I mean, I've only remember him talking in a commercial, so like where he was like shining his MVP or something like that. It had to be for like a MLB game or something like that. I'm not a gamer, so they don't stick in my head.
He was the cover boy for my favorite baseball game for PlayStation 2, which was MLB The Show 2009, which I've brought up before because it had the heckling of all Huff in it.
That shit matters.
It does. It does. Who names their kid Aubrey? It's just hilarious every time because they made it that there were never any fans at Devil Ray games. So you could hear like the individual hecklers. It's interesting. I don't actually know. He's very entertaining to listen to. He's super, super competitive. But I don't know if... I mean, Jerry Remy was the second baseman for us who brought
but Jerry Remy he was a decent enough second baseman, but guaranteed the GMs...
Right, no, but hold on. No, hold on. I'm saying, though, there's no reason... Remy's at the end of his career. There's no reason that Pedroia couldn't be this Red Sox second baseman in England. That's what I was trying to say.
Okay.
So...
Did Jerry Remy even get a Hall of Fame vote?
I can't imagine.
Nah, I'm not even going to bother looking that up. Should we go to just our little death march and then do a minor Super Bowl preview?
No, well, let's go to the other thing we talked about.
That's baseball. Right. Yeah, that's right. Baseball. Sorry, yeah. Because I had a question for you.
Dude, we should talk about this. We should talk about this for like 10 minutes ahead of time.
I know.
We need to write this stuff down.
That would have made sense. Why would I want to start doing that now?
Let's talk about that. So we got Champ Baseball fame, and you were thinking about next year's first-time nominees. So.
Right? Yeah, and because I have to revamp the core list on NotInHallOfFame.com, and for those who have visited that. It's not just a composite of what I think or what Evan thinks. Really, it's what all of you think. I will inject somebody in initially, and your votes will essentially push it up or down, or your comments. The top 50 that exists now, or the top 100 actually, is a little different than what I personally would have, but it's our list. It's my list. It's your list. It's everybody's. And
right.
Alex Rodriguez... Where to rank him initially? I mean, my first thought is he's going to go number 2. Or sorry, number 3.
Ahead of Bond?
No, number 3. No, behind Bonds and Clemens.
So ahead of Lou Whitaker?
Yes.
Because I pull up the list here. So just so everyone knows, you have a 1A, 1B, and 1C.
Yeah.
In Pete Rose with Joe Jackson and Roger Clemens. And then Barry Bonds at number 2.
Yeah.
Does he go there? Well, where does Ortiz go?
I don't know yet. I haven't thought that far ahead because I've been inundating myself with a mutual project that we have that will be launching shortly. So my work on updating that list has not started yet. So Ortiz is probably going to be top 5, possibly. I don't know. Rodriguez is the one guy that throws me off a lot because you and I have a complete agreement on one thing, which is the 2004 Mendoza line. That is when the baseball union agreed that drugs are bad, okay? He's trying to do Mr. Mackey. Okay, it didn't work. But
I know what you were attempting to do.
Yeah, well, glad you did. I didn't even do it well. That I knew what I was trying to say. But what that basically meant is the baseball union said, okay, we agree. If any one of us gets caught doing PEDs, that's a suspension. Prior to that, it was, dare we say, the wild, wild west. I mean, they knew they were taking it, but no one wanted to really do anything about it until the public turned. Fair?
Fair.
So the fact for me, and I think for you, because you and I have said the same thing, the fact that Bonds and Clemens, although never got caught, because why would they? They didn't have to be tested until a bunch of other shit sort of came up. I don't care what they did before 2004 because baseball didn't care.
Yep, and the people who would be in charge of carrying her in the Hall of Fame.
Exactly. Alex Rodriguez did get caught. So I don't care about what happened before that when he apparently would have been part of that Mitchell report before. I don't care. But he got caught twice. And Manny Ramirez, who's on the ballot currently, was also caught twice, or was it 3 times?
Twice.
Twice, okay. Manny Ramirez, whose stats
Yeah, because the third time he would have been banned forever.
Okay.
I'm pretty sure. So
Okay.
I think it was just...
All right, so Ramirez has, and I think you and I can agree, Hall of Fame stats, the Hall of Fame moment, the postseason success, and the brand name.
Mm-hmm.
And Alex Rodriguez has all of that, and better. Yet, here we have a guy who somehow got a pass. I never thought I'd see the day where people would forgive him to a point where he'd even be allowed back on television. The hatred towards Alex Rodriguez was unlike I'd ever seen in my lifetime regarding a baseball player. And you were living in Boston at the time, so it had to have been worse there.
Yeah, well, I mean, one of the every Bostonian's picture is the picture of Jason Varitek shoving his glove in A-Rod's face. Because A-Rod, so it's very revisionist history, the Red Sox fan hatred of A-Rod, because A-Rod tried to come to the Red Sox.
Right.
And it just didn't work out, and he ended up at the Yankees. So he would have been a Red Sox during that whole time period. And probably never would have gotten David Ortiz. Not that anything would have been different with that. But yeah, I mean, he was thought of before all the PED stuff as kind of a weird word, but kind of a ninny. Like the whole slapping Bronson Arroyo's glove. Or there's time when in Toronto where he's running the bases and screamed right behind the third baseman, so he'd drop it, and like he was just kind of like a wimpy dirt player, not like Manny Machado going out intentionally hurting people, just doing like the snide little things that Draco Malfoy would have done in the Harry Potter series. Like, just like kind of slimy and like not very masculine in the way that people tend to think of that term way of playing baseball.
Just an unlikable person. People didn't like the guy.
Yeah, that's how we. Yeah, agreed.
And people weren't liking him. That's when he was good, and then there was this coming out, and he was tabloid fodder forever, and to the point where he was persona non grata. And his farewell tour with the Yankees, when he did come back from that giant suspension, and it was a poor year. The Yankees didn't want him. He didn't want to play. He had to pretty much sue just to get some kind of money. I don't remember the exact legal entanglements, but it was an ugly, ugly end. But here we are a few years later. He's on the Fox regular broadcast. He's in a major power couple with J-Lo.
Yep.
And I've got to think, somewhere there's a club, and it's a support group, and there's Sammy Sosa there. There's Mark McGuire there. There's Rafael Palmeiro, though sometimes they don't let him in. Barry Bonds, Roger Clemens, just thinking like, really, this guy? You all hated him more than all of us together. What the hell? And what happened? How did we get here? A-Rod's not a great broadcaster and an analyst on Fox. Not that a lot of them are, because most people generally aren't. It's really hard to let your personality show. But I don't think he's particularly good in this job. Is this just, I don't even know how he got it. Is he just that good looking that he has to stay off television? What am I missing?
I don't know. It's a weird situation with him, because I almost feel like the television redeems him in a way, strangely, in terms of moving him back up, because I think that the only person who's going to get in the Hall of Fame next year is David Ortiz on the regular ballot.
Mm-hmm.
I don't see A-Rod getting in this ballot, but I think he's going to get in on the normal ballot eventually. And then Bonds and Clemens are going to explode.
How can they not?
I mean, agreed. Because this is a guy who's been caught twice.
Who did break the rules? Bonds and Clemens never did.
As far as we could tell.
Well, but the rules didn't exist at that point.
No, I'm sorry. Yes, I'm saying, but they both played after that. Yes. If they did break the rules, they were never caught, as you were trying to say.
Right, okay, yes.
Because there's a lot of people who feel that way. I feel that same way, by the way, about Ortiz. Even Vinny said that Ortiz got caught cheating. That never happened.
No, that was a Mitchell report thing.
That was the Mitchell report leak. That was essentially Ortiz and A-Rod. But the names were supposedly destroyed, so there was literally no way for anyone to check whether or not that rumor was true or not.
Right.
Like, there was literally no way to check whether that was true or not. And then Ortiz played the entire time and never got caught for anything. And A-Rod got caught twice. Mm-hmm. Take from what you will, but those are the facts of the situation. And again, I'm a Red Sox fan, but Ortiz was released on that, but at no point was ever caught doing that. And at the time, Ortiz honestly said, though, it's possible he could have done something without knowing it because he's using supplements from the Dominican Republic, and who knew whether or not the stuff in the label was legal, because it didn't matter. Because it didn't matter because nobody was testing anyway.
I'm trying to think what the equivalent is. You know, it's possible I might have got that other girl pregnant when I was out. Well, I got basketball in the background when I was on that road trip, but you know, I was drunk.
No, but I think it's different when you are using a supplement growing up and you continue to use the supplement without really knowing what's in it at a time when the truth and labeling standards may not have been the same in the Dominican Republic as they were in the United States. That's all I'm saying. So it's entirely possible he could have. I'm not saying it's true or false or whatever. It's entirely possible it could have been something that he wasn't doing anything intentionally. Like you say, the one time that Andy Pettit took it, but who knows? You know what I mean?
Well,
so regardless, they're not.
Like I've always said, though, I don't know whether Pettit only did it the one time. I just think that his apology is the gold standard of how you handle getting caught. The anti-Ryan Braun.
Yeah. True.
Yeah, and you don't have to do your Ryan Braun bit. I think we've all heard it.
I know. Well, I mean, the question for me on Ryan Braun is off to lose. So anyway, so A-Rod, I think you're right where he's going to have to go. I think Ortiz should be ahead of him, so I put A-Rod fourth, just because I think Ortiz has a better shot of getting in, and I think Ortiz is get like 81% of the vote next year. Is my guess, somewhere around like 79, let's say 77 to 83.
There's still also, though, take away the fact that I think, without you saying it, I think you and I both think that Ortiz probably did something, but since he's not caught, I don't, that's neither here nor there. There's still also the DH bias.
But that's made up for the fact he has 3 championships and one of the best postseason players ever.
True.
And he also said, "This is my fucking city," after the bombing, and basically became Boston's icon, and that changed a lot. That may have changed a lot of opinions about him as well. Mm-hmm. So I feel Ortiz, even with the DH and whatever suspicions people might have. I mean, you say all you want about suspicions. Mike Piazza and Jeff Bagwell are in the Hall of Fame. Ivan Rodriguez in the Hall of Fame. Like, suspicions. True. Haven't stopped people from getting.
Ivan Rodriguez. I don't think Piazza and who did you say, Bagwell? Yeah,
Bagwell.
Yes. I don't think those two were named by Canseco, where Irod was. So that's also I have to check that, but I'm pretty sure he directly said Irod was somebody who he saw juice or helped too. I got to check my facts on that, but I think that,
Right.
yeah, I mean, and at that point, I don't know why, not that I think Jose Canseco is a beacon of virtue, but, you know.
He's the biggest beacon of virtue they got.
He's something. He's something. So
I mean, honestly, who's told the truth more often about baseball than Jose Canseco?
Jesus.
If you needed someone to testify in front of Congress right now to tell the honest truth about baseball, would you rather have Jose Canseco or the commissioner?
Oh, gee. Well, okay. You're not exactly giving Jose Canseco someone fair to run against when you say the commissioner.
But isn't that...
No, I know.
I
hear what you're saying.
At least, despite all his complaining, at least I think Jose Canseco likes baseball.
That's true.
As opposed to Rob Manfred.
Yeah,
but anyway, so the answer to the question is I think he should be fourth, behind Ortiz and all this other stuff.
Yeah, and he very well might be. I know they're both going to be top five. A-Rod, it's... Man, I don't know that I would personally vote for him. I'm more inclined to vote for him than Ramirez, only because, well, again, the stats are better. And it is a stat-driven game. Saying that, I mean, like, who was a better teammate? I mean, they were both a mess at various points in their career.
Who were better teammates? I'm sorry.
Well, yeah, I was asking, like, who was a poorer teammate? Because at various points in times, they were both awful.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear. Who are we comparing?
Oh, sorry. A-Rod and Ramirez.
Oh. Interesting. Who's a better teammate? For most of his career, I would say Manny.
Mm-hmm.
But at the end, Manny was a significantly worse teammate than A-Rod was. So that switches back and forth.
Yeah, no, that's true. Oh, man. The amount of...
A-Rod was a defender than Manny was.
I think before we sort of close this bit off, and apologies if I brought this up last week. I don't think I did. But I keep going back to something you said, how baseball hates itself and it spent so much time tearing down its heroes. And the amount of articles I read from those voters who said how they just didn't want to vote.
Mm-hmm.
Like, we just saw a vote that had Bonds, Clemens, Ramirez, Schilling, and Sosa on it. 5 people when they were playing near the end of their career. You said, like, those are 5 Hall of Famers, with the exception of maybe Schilling. For those 4 guys, you'd say, you know what? I actually want to pay to see them play. In the next couple years, forgetting about A-Rod and Ortiz coming on the ballot, let's just say no one knew was coming on the ballot. We're probably going to see Scott Rowland and Todd Helton get in. With all due respect to Scott Rowland and Todd Helton, 2 players who I like very much, and I support their candidacy. How many people said, you know what, I really want to pay to watch them play? Not that many.
Mm-hmm.
And this is what baseball has done. And we're a couple days away from the Super Bowl. See how I'm segueing here? Not too bad.
Yeah, good job.
Yeah, thank you. And learning who is going to be on the Pro Football Hall of Fame on Saturday. We know it's Peyton Manning because that leak, wow, really stunned me. I had to pick up my jaw off the floor. But we're going to learn who that is. And just look at the complete difference, though, of... Just look at football, too. I mean, like, for what they've just overcome in terms to remain popular, the concussion issues, which really have been brought into light. And I don't want to say they've been swept under the rug, but... or even forgiven for that matter. But it never turned on itself. I'm not saying that Goodell handled everything with Kaepernick well, because obviously he didn't. But the game never turned on itself. And we're seeing that in a reflection as we're looking at the Pro Football Hall of Fame, and that's a celebration, and the Baseball Hall of Fame it's like a funeral.
Mm-hmm.
And
so that again is why I think he gets elected next year. By the way, because I don't think they want 2 years back to back of nobody getting elected.
Yeah, but this was the year, and you called it, that they could get away with it because there's still going to be a ceremony with the 2020 guys. And that probably played in some of their minds. Like, you know what? I don't have to vote for Bonds. Not Bonds or Clemens. They barely moved. But I think more, we don't have to vote for Schilling. But we talked enough about Schilling last week. So, actually, maybe before we get to the Super Bowl, there's a few passings that, and you're the head of the Death Watch. So, you're the death dealer.
I am the head of the Death Watch. Yes. Can you give me my music?
Hoorah, hoorah.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
So, of course, the toughest one, I know not someone we deal with and everything, although I guess he was a boxer one night and one night only. But Dustin Diamond dying this week was pretty sad.
Yeah, it really was.
From Safe Harbor Bend.
I've always said this about Screech Powers. There's no way that he would be friends with any of those guys. They would never let him hang around their social circle. It would never happen. That's it. Maybe this isn't the right time to say that, but it's something I've always felt. Obviously very strong.
Yeah, well, I still say that Zach's ability to stop time, think about things, and then start time again is the greatest superpower of all time.
And he didn't use it for anything.
He's a jerk, so that's the problem. The best powers don't always go to the best people.
True.
But yeah, Dustin Diamond was a very important part of my childhood, and unfortunately had a really tough time after leaving that show. Not quite as bad as Mark Voorhees, but not that much better. And died at 44 from cancer. Found out about 3 weeks ago.
Yeah.
So,
I think at the end, because when you're an awkward-looking kid, you can sort of be sort of an interesting-looking adult. So when he was always hitting on when Screech, and I'm just gonna put him in their fictional characters. When Screech was hitting on Lisa, you knew he had no shot. But when you see how they sort of aged, I think Screech could have had a pretty good shot there at Lisa. What say you?
Yeah, I mean, he ended up being a pretty, overall, pretty handsome guy. Not comparatively. So from where he was coming from, he's had a really awkward stage. Yeah,
Lisa Turtle might very well be Sammy Sosa, because I've never seen them in the same room. Just saying.
Highly possible.
But yeah, big part of my thing. I've got 2 Bayside T-shirts, and R.I.P. Dustin Diamond.
Yeah. So let's just go here from the world of the Olympics. We had Chad Colley passed away, actually a Paralympian, 2-time medalist in alpine skiing for Paralympics. Back in 1992 in Albertville. He won both the downhill and the Super G at the age of, I believe, 48 at the time.
Oh, dear.
So he was older. But yeah, he was a skier from Fort Smith, Arkansas, which is also not the easiest thing to do. But he passed away at the age of 76 earlier this week. He also won multiple, he was the 101st Airborne during the Vietnam War.
Oh, wow.
And while commanding his infantry company, he lost both of his left arm when a landmine exploded. So he had a Silver Star, a Bronze Star, and a Purple Heart, and won a couple of gold medals at Paralympic Games. But other than that, he didn't do much with his 76 years. So
I got to watch more Paralympics. I really got to start supporting that more than I have, and just putting my eyeballs on it. I think will help. But anyway,
well, I will say this. Here in Chicago, we have an organization, I think I may have brought up before, called Dare to Try. And Try is spelled Tri. Mm-hmm. And it's basically a athletics group it started as an athletics group for people coming home injured from the Afghanistan and Iraq war, but has grown into this huge club of paralyzed athletes or Paralympians who do all sorts of stuff. And it was like some ridiculous percentage now of American Paralympians are from the Chicago area, basically based on this organization.
Oh, cool.
So they're actually one of the organizations I support and give money to. But it's a really cool group over, I believe, Oak Grove, Illinois, which is where O'Hare is. I at least found out about them through the Rotary. But there's some absolutely incredible stories and incredible athletes in those sports. So anyway, so we also lost Diane Durham, who was the first African American woman to win the the American USA Gymnastics National Championship back in 1983. So she was on. She withdrew from the 1984 U.S. Olympic team competition. So she never was there, but she passed away at the far too young age of 53.
She withdrew because of injury, did it say?
Yeah, it was injury, and she also had a fight with Bella Caroli. So she ended up withdrawing the Olympics. But then Dunham was only 53 when she passed earlier this week. We also had, hold on a second here, trying to clear some of these out.
Yeah, Bella Caroli, while you're looking at that, he just always creeped me out.
I can understand that.
Yeah. Didn't something come out about him? Or, like, I know there was something with
I don't remember exactly, but there was some weirdness about him and his wife, I believe.
Yeah, not in terms, not with what happened to that coach at Michigan, or the doctor at Michigan State. Was it Larry Nasser? I think the name was.
No.
Nothing like that, but just like
there was something strange happened. I don't remember what though.
Yeah, because that's sort of why he got left off the whole coaching thing of our little project. But moving on.
Yeah. So we had Tony Trabert passed away. Former number one American tennis player, died at the age of 90 from COVID. But he won the French Open twice, in 54 and 55, Wimbledon in 55, the U.S. Open in 53 and 55. Actually, he made the semifinals in Australia, otherwise he would have won the Grand Slam in 1955 in tennis. He also won we did actually win the doubles in the Australian in 55.
Mm-hmm.
So that was a pretty good year.
Yeah,
He won doubles in Australia and in the French Open. Won the French Wimbledon U.S. Open.
I was not aware of that level of success. I mean, I knew the name. I did not know there was that many Grand Slams.
Yeah. And he was played both tennis and basketball at the University of Cincinnati. So, two-sport athlete coming through. But he passed away at the age of 90 earlier this week. We also had one of my favorite names in baseball, Wayne Terwilliger, passed away. He was a mediocre baseball player for the Cubs, Brooklyn Dodgers, Washington Senators, New York Giants, and Kansas City Athletics. He played for the Cubs in 4 teams that are not in their original cities, which is hard to do. But more than that, he was like the ultimate minor league baseball manager. He managed 12 different minor league teams over the course of like 30 years. So just like the ultimate minor league baseball manager, passed away at the age of 95 earlier this week. Not someone who necessarily would anything, but if there was ever a Hall of Fame for minor league managers, he would be in it.
Maybe there is.
Maybe there is. I don't know. There's got the minor league baseball Hall of Fame somewhere. There's Hall of Fame for everything, right?
You'd think that. Just not anything super big. I used to drive past.
That's true.
I used to drive past on this way in northern Ontario when I was seeing my first set of in-laws, past the Circular Saw Museum.
Nice.
Yeah, which is just some shack in the middle of these woods, and I just always imagined a lot of missing limbs. But anyway, I've interrupted.
That's fine. We lost Grant Jackson, member of the 1979 World Series Pittsburgh Pirates, reliever, finished his career 86 and 75, 346 earned run average, 79 saves. Had a decent career, played for 17 years, a one-time All-Star, but was an important part of that bullpen for the 79 Pirates. He passed away at the age of 78. We had, I'm trying to stick with Nick here. Not with sports here. One of the biggest people who passed away this week, John Chaney. Little John, as it were. We've lost Big John and Little John in the last 6 months. So John Thompson made Georgetown seem like a way bigger school than it was. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It made Georgetown seem like a major thing that was the size of North Carolina or whatever. And Georgetown's a very small school. John Chaney did the exact same thing with Temple.
Mm-hmm.
Like, the Temple Owls were way better than they ever should have been.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
And one of my favorite things is the fight he had with Don Calipari. When Calipari is the coach of the UMass Minutemen. And they had a very tough game, and Calipari was in his press conference talking about how the Temple Owls were cheap-shotting his team. And Chaney stormed into the press conference and threatened to fight Calipari right there, trying to defend his team's honor. And later became very close friends. But one of the absolute giants of college basketball. He was inducted to the Basketball Hall of Fame in 2001, the College Basketball Hall of Fame in 2006. Just absolutely one of the greatest coaches ever in college basketball.
Yeah, definitely worth mentioning for sure.
And then we just had 3 people from the world of music I thought I should bring up. We had the musician Sophie, as the popular. She was only 34. She had some sort of weird fall in Athens and passed away earlier this week. But she was a British music producer, DJ, like incredibly popular. And then that sort of scene, it was just weird that passed away. But very big into the electronic dance stuff and just a complete and utter loss for electronic music. Only 34, and I still don't quite understand what happened. They said she died in an accidental fall. But that makes it sound like she was sightseeing or something along those lines.
Could be. This may not be the best segue out. But,
sorry.
Go ahead.
Go ahead.
Well, no, I was just going to say, I've sadly known 3 people, actually in the last 10 years, who had died of accidental falls off boats. Slipping, hit their head. And, yeah. One very recently, actually. Only even worse because drowned. Because, yeah, so... Yeah, but anyway.
So actually, I do see something here. She was on the rooftop of a 3-story building trying to take a photograph of the full moon and slipped off the roof of the building.
Oh, man.
Yeah, that's terrible. Terrible way to go. But she was only 34 when she passed.
Yeah, just too young.
Way too young. Two, I guess, slightly bigger names or in terms of long-term people passed away. Nashville Songwriter Hall of Famer Jim Weatherly passed away at the age of 77. Weatherly is best known for, what was it? I'm trying to think of what he wrote. I'm trying to remember exactly what he wrote. It was in my head. Oh, he wrote Midnight Train to Georgia.
Oh.
Sorry.
Okay.
So he wrote Midnight Train to Georgia, and he wrote Neither One of Us. You know, remember that song? Neither one of us is going to be the first to say goodbye.
Okay, yep.
So he wrote a whole bunch of those type of songs. But he passed away at the age of 77. And then finally, in the world of music. Hilton Valentine passed away.
The Animals.
The original guitarist, The Animals, Dr. Rock and Roll Hall of Fame in '94. He's on the Hollywood Rock Walk of Fame in 2001. The other members of The Animals. He was 77 and passed away. But, I mean, The Animals are just... The Animals and Hilton Valentine's guitars are just one of the most important bands of all time. And they've kind of gotten forgotten a little bit with the way music has gone, but The Animals were as responsible for the development of rock and roll into our forces almost anybody.
Very much so.
So, yeah. So he passed at 77. And Schmidt, of course, struck twice this week. So, a Hungarian swimmer and Olympic silver medalist, Alban Vermes, who won a silver medal at the Moscow Games in the 200-meter breaststroke, past the age of 63. And also Hungarian wrestler and two-time bronze medalist, Josef, I can't begin to pronounce Hungarian, Kastari, I don't know, S-A-T-A with an accent over at R-I, passed away at the age of 78. He won bronzes at Mexico and so there you go. I'm done.
Okay. Well, we've only got sort of like one thing to talk about, and just something I thought of like right before. So you might be listening to this after the game happens, but Super Bowl's coming up. Oh, can I go on a mini tangent here before this?
Oh, please.
All right. So,
when have you ever needed permission before?
True, but I'm Canadian and I'm always polite, and I don't know what you'd ever say if I don't know what I'd do if you said no. That's a good question.
Well, it's been a good run on this podcast, but continue.
Yeah, thanks. So Super Bowl's coming up, and I sort of have a Hall of Fame question related to this that I told you that I was going to poise. And again, while most of you who are going to be listening to this will probably you'll be listening likely after the game, so hopefully you had fun watching it. That's all I'm going for. My team's not in it, so all I can hope for is to be entertained. And a big part of entertainment is commercials. Now, personally, I've always sort of subscribed to, like, okay, if a celebrity's in a commercial, I do not care. I can't think of any commercial where I've ever really been swayed too much, if at all. Maybe when I was a little kid, it's a toy and I wanted it. But as an adult, okay, you know what? Especially celebrity endorsements. I hate celebrity endorsements. Mostly because I don't believe they actually consume that product. Especially when it's Shaq in a small car. You're not driving that car! You can't fit in that car! But, sorry, that's just me going. But I saw a commercial a little while ago, and someone I'm going to ask you to sort of Google right now, because I don't know that you're that familiar with her. So just Google Amanda Nunes, if you can.
Okay.
So while I'm sort of going on that, and this is for, and right now I owe you 3 beers in our perpetual bet of when we eventually meet. And I know what, and if I sort of like turn the tide, I know what beer, originally I said I'd like a Youngling, sort of an American beer that I can't get anywhere else. But another beer that I will have next time I have the opportunity, because they're using Amanda Nunes in a commercial. Amanda Nunes is the current champion in UFC. I forget what actual weight class, but she's the best female fighter currently. Watching her for me it's art. Watching her fight. Now she's not exactly a marketable person like the previous biggest name in mixed martial arts for females, Ronda Rousey. Amanda doesn't get nearly as much press. And as you're looking at her, you can see she's a relatively attractive lady. But she's not model pretty. She's also not straight. She's also not American. Now, Modelo...
Brazilian.
She's Brazilian. She's completely bilingual. and she is married to her partner, and who's also in mixed martial arts, not nearly as good, and her partner had a kid, so she's a mom.
Okay.
But this commercial, it's just this awesome Modelo commercial where it's just like Amanda Nunes, only woman in her class, and basically how she kicks ass, and then she's out partying afterwards, just like holding up a beer with her big smile. I want a Modelo because you are employing somebody who should have had a commercial endorsement like this a long time ago because she kicks ass and you did a great job and you didn't make it all about identity.
Mm-hmm.
And kudos to you, Modelo. I like your beer anyway. I'm now more inclined for the first time ever on a beer commercial to have that product because you used this person. That's it. That's all I got. I thought it'd be a nice little positive rant as opposed to some of the usual negative ones I do.
Well, Modelo does that with a lot of different Latinos. So.
Well, that's true too. That's true. So I mean,
it's cool that she's involved. No, because they did Anthony Munoz, and they have one for a chef and a few other people just sitting around drinking beer, just like Latinos who have made it and done stuff like that. So.
Yeah, and they're not also, I mean, while they're not saying, okay, well, here's an open lesbian, they're also not exactly hiding that, because if you look at the end of the commercial, she's kind of got on her lesbian tuxedo.
Sure.
But so what? She's a kick-ass fighter. There's just a sweet science about fighting. And I'm just a massive fan of hers. And I'm just really happy that she's getting that endorsement money. I'm happiest to see her get this. It makes me very happy. That's it. That's all I got. But the Super Bowl is not about the commercials. It is for my wife. She's excited about that. She's excited about watching The Weeknd. Okay? But, here's my question I'm going to pose to you. We know that the Super Bowl can make or break. Not usual, because I don't think the people who are deciding the Hall of Fame pay enough attention to Super Bowl moments, or playoff moments for that matter. Although there was a few writers that tried to tell us that Julian Edelman is a Hall of Famer based on his playoffs. Stretching, I think. But is there anyone who, if they had an amazing performance, who can really help themselves the most? And obviously we're not talking Tom Brady or Rob Gronkowski. But who could benefit the most out of everyone who's going to be playing on Sunday? Or this past Sunday, depending on when you're listening.
Well, you could argue that Patrick Mahomes, 3 years in, may already be a Hall of Famer. I know his numbers aren't there, but there's arguments. If he wins this and then would retire, he'd basically be a Hall of Famer.
I'd agree.
I don't think Mahomes is hurt by losing or anything like that. We're taking Brady off the table. We're taking Gronk off the table. Travis Kelce, I think, is also probably already a Hall of Famer. Would you agree with that?
I think he's definitely on that way. He's the top tight end in any kind of conversation, especially now that Jason Witten... No, he's not, because Gronkowski's there. But Gronk could retire again. Witten just retired. So he's the top tight end currently in football and has been for a while, save for maybe that one George Kittle year, but I'd still rather have Kelce than Kittle. But yeah, if he comes out as a Super Bowl MVP, I think he's going to be hard to deny if he falls off a cliff, yeah.
Yeah. So
I got one in mind.
I'm trying to think who. I got one for each team on the defensive end, but I just don't know if they're the two people who come to mind right now. I don't know if they're far enough along in their careers as of yet. But I think Chris Jones on the defense for Kansas City can really, he's already made quite a name for himself anyway. but he has an opportunity to completely wreck any offensive plan the Bucks have, and he has a great game. It's entirely possible he could find himself as a defensive player for once on that side. But he's only 26, so I'm not sure if that's too soon for him.
Mm-hmm.
And on the other side, I think it's Devin White, who's really announced himself. But I mean, he's only 2 years in, but he could announce himself as like one of the top players in the league the rest of his career if he ends up doing that. Those are the first two people come to mind who really like raise their level of notice in the country, because Chris Jones is a ridiculous player, but his name's Chris Jones. Like it kind of seems to blend in, just name wise, and he's as good
True.
as he is. It's easy to forget that Kansas City has a defense, right? So those are the first two who come to mind off the top of my head. I mean, there are other people who are along in career. But let's hear yours, and then I'll go back to the other ones I was thinking.
One person who we've talked about before, and this could be a huge redemption, especially if he does well, is Antonio Brown.
Oh, that's true.
So Antonio Brown, who I argued a year ago, and if I remember correctly, I think you agreed with me on that, had he retired after his last year in Pittsburgh, would have gone the Calvin Johnson path. Instead, he, his personal problems may have come out, and especially, it's not that I don't want to use the word funny. It's not funny at all. But football will forgive PEDs. Now they won't forgive, nor should they, battering women. Although in Antonio Brown's case, that's still, it's not really proven, and I don't want to go any more than that because it's still a little up in the air, but clearly he's not exactly been a great guy. We can agree on that, right?
Right.
And combine that with his antics with the Raiders, his one-game performance with New England. This could be a reclamation project that, if he keeps his nose clean off of the field afterwards, and he comes off, that's a big ask. But it's possible, and he comes off of this with Super Bowl MVP, which offensive player. So we know it's unlikely it's going to go to a defensive player. Although I do have one that I'm going to mention.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
And I was going to say Antonio Jones. After mentioning Chris Jones, and Antonio Brown Super Bowl MVP, because that will help him, because he's now the type of guy at this point that he's got to now add a bunch of things that you can't say, okay, yeah, but he was this guy. He's entering this weird Terrell Owens category where they made him wait 2 years as almost a punishment. For T.O. Mm-hmm. So I think if he adds something this big to his resume, it's weird how he's so worse off now than he was 2 years ago. And that should not be the case, but it is. I don't know, what do you think?
Yeah. Yeah, well, I was thinking about here's a question for you, and
sure.
A player who has been convicted of domestic battery.
Mm-hmm.
Tyreek Hill.
Yes.
If Tyreek Hill has a really, really great game, what does that do for him? Because we're talking about alleged and not proven versus convicted. Is Tyreek Hill having the problems at the beginning and then surviving, or apparently doing okay, better than Antonio Brown doing great at the beginning and then having troubles in the back end?
I think for Hill, because he's now been found redeemed by the NFL. Do you remember? Did you watched the Longest Yard remake?
No.
You didn't watch. You didn't watch the remake. Okay. There's a line. Shit, I gotta paraphrase this, but There's a line by Chris Rock in that to Sandler, who played the quarterback, Paul Crewe. And when Sandler's coming into jail and everyone seems to hate him, and then Chris Rock's looking at him, it's like, just because he got kicked out of the NFL before, that had nothing to do with why he went into jail, but he got kicked out of the NFL because he point shaved. And Chris Rock basically said, we've got rapists here, we've got kiddie porn, but shaving points is un-American, or cheating on football, something like that. And I guess where I'm going with this is football, like other sports, and we just talked about this a bit. They'll forgive different things because you're not necessarily doing a crime against football. What Antonio Brown did by being a complete idiot in Oakland was alleged a crime against football. A complete.
I understand.
So is that right or wrong? I think it's a weird thing. I know who I think is the worst individual, the worst crimes, but that's not how that sport thinks in this group think. So I guess my long-winded way of answering your question, I think Tyreek Hill is already considered forgiven. However, 10 years from now, as we evolve, as we change positions on things, that might be the thing that sort of ends it. So Tyreek Hill, I don't know how they're going to group think. I mean, I look back and this is taking another dark turn. When remember Ray Rice, and around the same time as Greg Hardy and a couple others, and so people said, well, why is Ray Rice out, and why was the book thrown at him so much harder than the others? And it was a simple answer. It was on video. We saw it.
Right.
And that was the coldest thing I ever. Amazingly, they're still married today, which blows my mind. But once you see something in a video thing, you can't escape it. Why is Mike Tyson now celebrated? Well, we never saw him actually rape that girl.
Right.
And once you put a visual in it, like an actual visual, what do you're going to forget that. Like Kareem Hunt got in trouble, and the visual that we had was him yelling at a woman in a hotel. And he had to do penance for that. And for some people, that's pretty bad. And, and justifiably so to a point. Once something's on camera, it's all different. Everything's different. Tyreek Hill, what he did is not seen. There's no visual to it. So will it be swept under the rug? Yeah. Will Antonio Brown being remembered for complaining about his feet and his helmet? People are going to remember it because it's on damn camera. It's on a tweet that we can find. It's this weird thing. But anyway, I went somewhere else. I had a second player on the defensive side of the ball. Someone who in his first few years looked like he was a Hall of Famer. Doesn't as much now, but he went from being this incredible player to now being somewhat underrated, which is interesting to me. Ndamukong Suh.
Yeah. That was going to be my next one.
Yeah. So, still there. He's sacrificed stats for the good of the team. Comes up with, but now you add a Super Bowl to it. This adds to him. And we don't know how much longer he's got. Could be quite a bit. He's been playing relatively well over the last couple of years.
Yeah, he played pretty well this year.
Yeah. So he's in a renaissance. Throw a Super Bowl. Let's get him 2 sacks. Maybe a strip sack. What does this do? So I think those are my 2 answers to that. To me.
Interesting. How about Tyrann Mathieu?
That's enough. Actually, that's one I didn't think of, but that's a great one. The It's funny how I want to say the worst all-decade choice. And he's still the Honey Badger. And still just a great player. Yeah, that's a great one. I didn't think of that.
Yeah, it's another one. There are a few. I don't feel like there are a ton in this because most of the Buccaneers, like, I think Devin White has the ability to completely jump a level in this thing. I think Chris Jones does as well. So long term, I think it's making a difference. Like Shaq Barrett is pretty young, but he can really make a name for himself. Levante David is there.
Another great one. Yeah.
What about APP?
I guess also too on the coaching side. Does this make Andy Reid now a lock? If he wins?
Andy Reid was a lock anyway. But what about Jason Pierre-Paul?
That's another good one.
Yeah. So anyway, he was already a lock. Like he should have been a lock before he won the Super Bowl last year. But now he's won the Super Bowl. Mm-hmm. He's 100% a lock.
Yeah.
Of course, Eric Bieniemy can't get interviewed for any jobs, but he's a lock.
So
he's a lock. Does this do anything for Bruce Arians though?
It could. Okay, I'm blanking. Who's the Tampa GM who landed Brady and Gronk?
Licht, is that his last name? Jason Licht.
Well, I mean, I would think that guy has just now jumped up.
Yeah, Jason Licht.
Like, how can he not? I got to say something. Go ahead.
I don't know. He was on the hot seat before this whole thing happened and setting up for Brady. So I don't know how much that does for him in terms of the Hall of Fame resume.
Well, he put something together. I mean, he rolled the dice on an older quarterback. This could have very well been, I don't want to say Joe Montana 2.0, like Montana was so bad at Kansas City. I mean, he was still, if I believe, a Pro Bowler in one of those years. But that's kind of where I thought Brady was going to be. Like, just like an okay year and then a year, and it's like, okay, hang it up. He already exceeded everything more than I thought.
Well, Bruce Arians is already saying that they wouldn't be surprised if Brady's an extension.
Why not at this point?
Yeah, I told you Brady's at least going to play next year because he wants to get to 45, and the Patriots and Buccaneers play next year. And I think he wants that game. I don't think Licht in particular is probably going to get that much. I feel like the Kansas City side, I mean, they've just created a mini dynasty, and that's what cement it. So,
you've locked in your quarterback for, I don't say forever, but just you're doing everything right. And amazingly, one of these two people, Antonio Brown or Le'Veon Bell, is going to have a Super Bowl ring. That's happening. And there's one name that we're not mentioning. Le'Veon Bell is done in terms of Hall of Fame conversation. And how strange is that 2 years ago? Holy crap.
Yeah, his sitting out a year did not really work out for him.
No. He rolled the dice. Like, what's the worst thing in craps? Is that snake eyes? I've never played craps.
I don't know. I have no idea.
Oh, I should have come up with a better metaphor. Well, I don't plan metaphors when I do this. God damn it. Rolled the dice and it fell off the table and they kicked him out of the casino. There we go. That's what happened to him.
There you go.
I mean, sometimes when you bet on yourself, you lose.
True.
Hate to say it. It's well. But I'm sure he was smart and he kept his money.
Mm-hmm.
Or maybe, I don't know. I know nothing about Le'Veon Bell, so I don't even know what I'm implying with that. I guess I'm just going by
Here's my question: is Mike Tomlin a much better coach than we think, or is he like just create a situation where everybody goes crazy?
Mike Tomlin?
Yeah. Because he had Bell and Brown, and now he has Smith-Schuster, who's like dancing on everyone's logos. Like the Steelers are always like just slightly mentally off. I remember I told you this when they're 11-0, that was such a weak mental team because they were constantly doing the woe is me when like other teams were having COVID and their schedule got moved around a little bit. Like it always happens to us. They always trying to like no one's trying to screw the Steelers. Like
No.
they just aren't, right? So,
No, I mean, hey, if I could sort of play that, I could have played that as a Saints fan over some calls over the last few years in the playoffs. I'm not going to play a conspiracy theorist. That's just how it goes.
The Saints have had bad calls. I haven't heard.
No, yeah, and I think I could sort of like play that out for a couple minutes before you got bored. Maybe,
yeah,
maybe not. And I think there's some validity to that, but not like shit. There's not a conspiracy. That's the one thing that the NFL's got right now is where the game is bigger than some teams. Are they happy that Tom Brady's in the Super Bowl against Patrick Mahomes? Is that gold for them? Absolutely. Would the rating be that much worse if you had
Aaron Rodgers?
Well, not Aaron Rodgers. Okay, what would be the two least marquee teams that made the playoffs?
Jacksonville and Arizona.
No, that made the playoffs.
Oh, they made the playoffs?
Yeah. But yeah.
I have to think who made the playoffs again. So let's see. It was the Bears, Seahawks, Rams.
All right, so let's say
Packers.
Arizona made it, right? They squeaked in at number 6.
Okay, yeah.
No, they didn't.
Wait,
Or did they?
no, they didn't.
They didn't. Okay.
No, to answer your question though, that the two teams with fan bases who
Or the worst.
probably they're careless about it are Jacksonville and Arizona.
All right, let's just say it's a Jacksonville,
Like,
Arizona Super Bowl. The ratings for that will still be better than almost everything else that would be. Would it be better for the other one? Sure. Is the NFL really going to cry a river like it would be like in I don't know, when the NHL gets saddled with shit? Let's say it would be okay. I'll say one that did happen when my team Ottawa made the finals against Anaheim. Well, they really love that, the half of that equation.
Yeah.
And Anaheim didn't have it. It might be in LA, but nobody like there was a big party in Anaheim when they won. Hockey wasn't that big in the States, in some parts of the States yet. It's a lot different now.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, if hockey were rigged, then the Maple Leafs have won something by now.
Well, not necessarily, because I think hockey's always going to be huge in Canada. If you want your ratings, like what would be the marquee thing for the NHL? I love where our conversations go. This is so good. But what would be like the dream matchup in the NHL? Although I did read something I didn't even realize, that it's now possible, because the way the alignment is, apparently it's possible to have a Boston-Montreal Stanley Cup. Now, how cool would that be?
It is possible in Montreal. That would be awesome. I was thinking about that. The single best one for this year would be something like that. But in general, when we're at normal situation, so here's the difference. Going back to baseball and hockey. Hockey is way better at marketing their biggest stars, right? So than baseball is. So for
Which
hockey,
is strange because hockey's not even good at it.
No, but I mean, who's a bigger name in this country? Like Mookie Betts or Sidney Crosby? Like Crosby and Ovechkin, and I mean, you could pick others are bigger names probably, or more recognizable to most sports fans than if you show them a picture without a uniform of Mike Trout or Alex Ovechkin. Who's going to be more recognizable to most people?
Maybe we go with a different guy because Alex Ovechkin has a very unique look to him.
All right, Sidney Crosby.
Okay. And yeah, it'd still be Crosby. I just sort of like wanted to point that out. Alex Ovechkin sort of stands out in the crowd. It's like who's that guy? Brett Burns for the Sharks.
Oh yeah.
Very unique look. Actually, I saw him in a hotel in Winnipeg not that long ago when I was traveling across country. Yeah, well, it's because I was at the Fairmont, Winnipeg. Actually, I went to the Jets-Sharks game that night. Traveling across country before moving to Barbados, bringing my dog, so we only had to do one. All that for my dog, so we only had to do one flight instead of two. I didn't want to put him through that. Met up with a friend of mine in Winnipeg.
Sorry, guys, go ahead.
No, I just met up with a friend of mine, and who actually worked at the Fairmont there, and then I saw her after. So clearly you've got because they're not supposed to tell you if they got the contract or not. So I guess I'm letting this leak, but they've got the contract for some of the NHL teams, San Jose being one. I said, like, how could you possibly know that? You're not supposed to know that. Well, I saw Brett Burns in the damn elevator. Like no front teeth, the beard out like everywhere, and he's got his pajamas on. Yeah, it's like
I was just thinking though. I'm sorry. I was thinking, who's more recognizable? Any baseball player or Landy McDonald? Sorry.
That's true too. And how screwed up is that? My God. I don't even know beyond Betts. And Trout's not even recognizable. Of course, a lot of that's because of Mike Trout. Let's also be honest there. Mike Trout's agent's got to be just like, come on, do something. Say something. Anything? Hello?
Yeah.
That's got to be one of the more frustrating things. I read one time about David Letterman's agent just getting all pissed off because his Letterman was just content to do a show. Like, no, you can go in a movie, go do other things. Something, anything. Didn't want to do it.
Yeah.
But then again, maybe I could be wrong. Maybe they're trying to sell Trout. No, I think he'd be good for this commercial. Like, nah. Maybe he tests badly. How is it?
He could. Who knows? I mean, who's the third biggest star in baseball right now? Is it Clayton Kershaw? Is it Justin Verlander?
I'd say Verlander only because he's married to Kate Upton.
That's true.
And the top pitcher right now they're bringing him down, Garrett Cole.
Mm-hmm.
Which, I mean, sounds like he probably is doing that cheating. That's with the doctoring of the balls, adding more spin rotation. And that's the other thing. It's not him being brought down by the press. It's him being brought down by other players.
Yeah.
And you're right. Baseball hates itself.
And baseball's got something else going on. Both the trades of Lindor and Arenado this offseason, like there's something rotten in baseball. There's just something going on. So, I mean, those are two of the 10 best players in the league.
And when these things happen, it's just not huge news like it should be.
Yeah.
And yet every year I get excited. But I never wonder why people half my age, this is so depressing to say, people half my age, but I don't wonder why people half my age don't care. I grew up with it.
Yeah.
They grew up not, and I get why they wouldn't. Back in our day, Evan, I remember when baseball was a game, and even though there were awful things going on, it always celebrated itself.
Yeah.
But now, all right. Anyway,
we're back into our angry old men angry old men thing.
Yeah, yelling at clouds. Angry old man yells at cloud. So yeah, next week.
Get off my lawn, cloud.
Yeah, exactly. So next week, unlike this week, although we squeezed an hour and a half out of nothing. So.
Oh. Rest.
We pretty much did. So yay to us for that. Next week, we will have our review of the Pro Football Hall of Fame and their choices, and hopefully we'll know exactly how they did. I will already shit on the NFL Network, who is going to make us wait an hour to find out something that they could just tell you right away.
Mm-hmm.
And if they screw over Drew Pearson again, which won't happen.
Oh, well, yeah. It won't happen.
Yeah, although did you hear today? So he went on a local radio and said, and was pretty much told, yeah, just stay by your phone Saturday, which they would have told him that anyway, I guess. But he's feeling pretty confident.
Mm-hmm.
But Drew, if you're listening, and you're not, just in case, maybe don't film yourself this time. That's actually more for my benefit. I just can't watch that again.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I guess that'll be our breakdown, and yeah, maybe a little bit of a. We can then just say, hey, did someone actually in the Super Bowl really help themselves, or not, or maybe someone completely did not help themselves at all. Maybe Antonio Brown will pull a Donovan McNabb and throw up in the field. That could happen. It could.
It could.
Maybe that should be a Super Bowl prop. Will anyone throw up on the field? No? It's possible. It's possible. I mean,
of course it is.
Yeah, so I know you haven't looked at it yet, but there are some Super Bowl props that I put out for our pool. And that pool is just, for a little group. We might extend that if this sort of becomes something more fun. Did you see what some of the props are?
I have not, really.
Oh, you suck.
I haven't had a chance to talk about them. I'm sorry, man.
God damn you people who have jobs.
Some of us have real jobs, I was going to say.
So here's some of the things you've got to think about. Without going over, how many times during the game is Gisele Bündchen shown on camera?
3.
Okay.
I have no idea.
All right, well, I'm just saying that's something there. What song will The Weeknd open with?
I don't know any of their songs. I don't think off the top of my head.
Well, it's also a he. It's not a they. So.
Well, okay. Fine.
Yeah. So you've got some.
He also didn't spell weekend right. So.
That's also true. Well, maybe in metric that's spelled correctly. Maybe you don't know enough about Canadian culture as you think you do.
Well, there would be an extra U if it's really good Canadian culture.
Well, this is true. This is true. So, those are some of the things you'll have to think about. Also, the color of Tony Romo's tie. I try to make half of these questions very stupid. Putting it bluntly. And the other half are very pertinent football questions that I think will be good. We've already got a few people who've put theirs in. I will not be participating because I will have access to see everyone's. And since some of these are sort of like the Price is Right, because some of them are without going over, it's always that advantage for that fourth person on the Price is Right in the showcase. Not showcase. What is that?
So can I just put one for everything?
Yeah, exactly. 0. Yeah, $1. But yeah, so
what color will Tony Romo's tie be? 1.
Well, if he wears one tie, yeah, I guess that'll sort of work. If someone sort of answers chartreuse, then I really have to question what the hell I'm doing. I question myself that all the time. But anyway, we are done. We could go on, and again, we sort of like squeezed a lot. I don't know how this works, Evan. When we have nothing to say or nothing to talk about, it's just as long as our shows where we have a lot to talk about.
Yeah, I don't know. Just we just got stuff to say. What can I say?
Exactly. Well, it's hard to be this entertaining. Well, Evan, stay safe.
Thank you, sir. You as well. I'll talk to you next week.
All right, sounds good. And get your picks in.
I will.
All right, take care.
Thank you all so much for listening. Stay safe, everyone, and there'll be a lot more from us coming at notinhallofame.com.